Stand by SOT1.
Standing.
10 seconds. Ready, rollin'. Ready, SOT1.
Ready.
In 4, 3, 2, 1. Roll in.
From legendary Uncle Studios in beautiful Southern California, welcome to another edition of Work Comp Matters, the central location for you employees, you employers, and of course, we haven't forgotten about you damn independent contractors. And now, here's this week's edition of Work Comp Matters.
And good afternoon, everybody. It's July 9th, a little after 12 noon. Welcome to another edition of Work Comp Matters. We are brought to you by the workcompcentral.com. If you want the number one location for workers' compensation in both California and around the United States, check out the workcompcentral.com. They've got a free 7-day offer, and if you want to pick up their services, I have them. You should too. It's only $1 a day. Work Comp Matters is also brought to you by A1 Law, number one computer management system, 818-357-4120 for your no strings attached money back guarantee. $1 a day. A1 Law. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Steve Appell. I'm joined by my Chief of Staff, Mike Zyma, as well as the madman across the water, Mr. John Scalia. The United States Supreme Court is in the news. Donald Trump is in the news. The Gav, Governor Gavin Newsom, is in the news. And of course, COVID-19 is in the news. I want to see if I can get up something really quickly. Here we go. The United States Supreme Court ruled that President Donald Trump can be subpoenaed to turn over his tax returns in the New York investigation, but sent the case back. We refer to that as remanded the case back to the lower court. The president argued that he is immune from any criminal investigations while in office, which the Supreme Court disputed. In other cases, House Democrats wanted to see the president's financial records as part of an investigation into whether Donald Trump paid hush money to porn star Stormy Daniels. You think? They're also looking into whether the president lied about the value of assets, his assets, to reduce his taxes and get loans. Donald Trump lying? Come on, people, give me a break. The justices sent that case back to the lower courts too, blocking Democrats from getting those records for now and giving President Trump a win to keep that information private in the months before the election. The subpoena in the New York criminal case is also related to possible hush money payments to the porn actress who said she had an affair with Trump. The president's personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, pleaded guilty to lying to Congress and other charges related to the investigation. Looks like also the Supreme Court said that half of Oklahoma belongs to Native Americans. I'm going to go to the madman across the water. He's always talking about Donald Trump. And John, go ahead.
I think it's interesting that Trump is rebelling against this ruling when during his campaign for president, which I'm sure he can't remember, he promised to make his tax returns public. But now he's fighting to keep them private. It's amazing.
I think he said he would make them public if Hillary released 30,000 emails. But go ahead.
Anyway, the point is he's obviously got lots to hide, and he's upset that they're telling him eventually he may not be able to hide it. It's interesting that even his appointees voted against him. The only two people who voted on the side that he wanted are the two brain-dead members of the Supreme Court, Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas. I mean, Clarence Thomas hasn't had a live neuron in his brain for decades, and Alito is just a lockstep whatever the president wants, even though he's not one of his appointees. But both Gorsuch and Kavanaugh voted with the majority. It was 7-2. And the Oklahoma ruling that you referred to is also interesting, because in that ruling, Gorsuch, who was Trump's appointee, voted with the Indians. And Gorsuch said, I'm going to hold the government to the promise they made the Indians when they put them on the reservation. Wow, imagine that, holding the government, the U.S. government, to its promises. I don't think there was anything all that surprising about the decisions, other than the fact that it restores more of my faith in the rule of law in the United States.
I have not read that decision, but there is some serious questions by some people that I have been texting about Gorsuch's logic, and it's recommended to read the Alito dissent. Apparently, these other people are telling me that the Alito dissent makes far more sense than the Gorsuch opinion. I'm now going to go to.
Did I mention he was one of the two brain dead guys?
I'm now going to go to Dr. Mike Zima for his comment on the U.S. Supreme Court and Donald Trump.
Well, once again, I'm glad that they just got it right. And I agree with John that it's a good day for the rule of law in America. However, I think that we are not going to see any of this documentation until after the election. My understanding is that even if it was to be released, it goes to a grand jury. But that's probably going to be after the election also. Now, if it goes to the grand jury, I think it will be leaked. But it's after the election. But Trump is going to see, just like Nixon and just like Clinton, he's not immune from potential criminal prosecution. Thank you.
And you are absolutely welcome. Going to more state legislation, not legislation, but going back down to the state, bottlenecks in the coronavirus testing kit supply chain are slowing California's efforts to identify new cases of COVID-19, prompting alarm among virus experts who say it's coming at a critical moment amid a surge in cases and hospitalizations. Officials in California around the country say the increasing demand for tests has once again overwhelmed labs and is now forcing California to triage testing amid the infection surge. It's also leading to a slower turnaround time for testing results. In many cases, patients who suspect they have COVID-19 are forced to wait more than a week for results. Okay, so you're not satisfied. You say you want more. Not a problem. Governor Gavin Newsom, the Gav, tried to reassure Californians Wednesday that, quote, "we will get through this," close quote. Want to bet? Despite an alarming surge in the state's coronavirus cases and hospitalizations, the governor noted that the state is testing more than 100,000 patients each day. I dispute that number. I don't think we're testing 100,000 a day. But if the Gav says it, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But I would like to see it. He also said the state has the capacity to treat as many as 50,000 patients at a time. He focused on state and local public health officials' enormous efforts in recent months to bend the coronavirus deadly curve, including amassing larger stocks of protective gear for health workers and setting up field hospitals. Hey, Gav, what about the $1 billion in masks? I still haven't seen one of those masks. John, you're in Munich, Germany. Is Germany providing masks for its population?
Well, you have to buy them, but they're readily available. Yeah, they're all over. In fact, I got one. One of the things on my Facebook page is the official city Facebook page for Munich. And like 2 or 3 days before it became regulated, mandated that we wear masks on public transit, they told you where you could get one in your neighborhood. There was a drugstore within a few miles of my place, and I just took the bus there, and sure enough, just stood in a very short line and bought my mask.
All right. Well, that is good to know. Mike, well, no, hold on just a second. My name's Steve Appell. You're dialed into Work Comp Matters. We are brought to you by the workcompcentral.com. If you want the number one location for workers' compensation in both California and around the United States, check out the workcompcentral.com. We got a free 7-day offer. If you want to pick up their services, it's only $1 a day. Work Comp Matters is also brought to you by A1 Law. Number one computer management system, 818-357-4120. I believe John Scalia has got a halftime report. Is that correct, John?
Sure. What would you like it on?
You know what? Why don't you talk about why you're living in Munich, Germany?
Well, I'm living here because I prefer to live in a country where things are well ordered and where the government looks out for the people and where the people in general follow the rules and regulations, where everything works, where I get to a bus stop and I'm waiting for the bus and I on my phone it tells me when the bus is going to be there, so it tells me when I have to leave my place to get to the bus. And, we're spoiled. I mean, if the bus is 3 minutes late, I'm like, whoa, what's wrong? That's how things run here. They run pretty much like clockwork. That was the main reason. I mean, I just saw what was happening in America even back then, and I didn't like it. And I like it even less now. And so I wanted to live in a place where the government and the people are not alienated from each other. And that's this place.
That sounds like a wonderful place to visit. Would I want to live there? Me? Nah, I don't think so. Dr. Mike, want to visit Germany with me sometime?
No, but it's more because I'm just old and I like sameness. I like to go to work, and then after work, I like to go home. I like to watch the news with my wife, and I don't have any wanderlust into me now. So I don't think I'm going to be going.
John, do you have a news story, or should I defer to Mike for the next news story?
Well, yeah, I have 2 news stories.
All right, tell you what, hold on. Why don't you and Mike bat the news stories back and forth? John 1, Mike 1, John 1, back 1. I'll see you back in a couple of minutes. Go for it.
John, can I just lead off because I want to get this story out before we go to another subject. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. Conditions continued to deteriorate in many parts of California on Wednesday with a surge of new coronavirus cases, as well as a troubling rise in COVID-19 deaths. The state recorded its highest single-day coronavirus death toll Wednesday, with 149 fatalities reported, according to a Los Angeles Times county-by-county tally. That eclipsed the previous highest daily toll, 132, recorded May 19th, according to the Times California Coronavirus Tracker. Thank you, John, for letting me get that in.
No problem. Okay. Amid surge, hospitals hesitate to cancel non-emergency surgeries. 3 months ago, the nation watched as COVID-19 patients overwhelmed New York City's intensive care units, forcing some of its hospitals to convert cafeterias into wards and pitch tents in parking lots. Hospitals elsewhere prepped for a similar surge. They cleared beds, stockpiled scarce protective equipment, and voluntarily or under government orders, temporarily canceled non-emergency surgeries to save space and supplies for coronavirus patients. In most places, that surge in patients never materialized. Now, coronavirus cases are skyrocketing nationally, and hospitalizations are climbing at an alarming rate. But the response from hospitals is markedly different. Most hospitals around the country are not canceling elective surgeries, nor are government officials asking them to. Instead, hospitals say they are more prepared to handle the crush of patients because they have enough protective gear for their workers and know how to better treat coronavirus patients. They say they will shut down non-essential procedures at hospitals based on local assessments of risk, but not across systems or states. Some hospitals have already done so, including facilities in South Florida, Phoenix, and California's Central Valley. And in a few cases, such as in Texas and Mississippi, government officials have ordered hospitals to suspend elective surgeries. Okay, I'm going to interrupt the reading of the article to point out, listen carefully to the next paragraph. Hospitals' decisions to keep operating rooms open are being guided partly by money. Elective surgeries account for a significant portion of hospital revenue, and the American Hospital Association estimates that the country's hospitals and healthcare systems lost $202.6 billion with a B dollars between March 1 and June 30. What we now realize is that shutting down the entire healthcare system in anticipation of a surge is not the best option, said Carmela Coyle, president of the California Hospital Association. I will editorialize and tell you, if you don't understand what that means she heads a lobby group representing these money-grubbing hospitals. It will bankrupt the healthcare delivery system. Oh, you mean the nonprofit healthcare delivery system that Americans are so proud of? But some healthcare workers fear that continuing elective surgeries amid a surge puts them and their patients at risk. For instance, some nurses are still being asked to reuse protective equipment like N95 masks and gowns, even though hospitals say they have enough gear to perform elective surgeries, said Zinaya Cortez, president of the National Nurses United Union. In case you can't figure it out, she represents the people who actually do the work, not the lobby group for the profit for the money-grubbing hospitals. They continue to put us at risk, Cortez said. They continue to look at us as if we are disposable material. Really, what a shock. Elective surgeries, generally speaking, are procedures that can be delayed without harming patients, such as knee replacements and cataract surgery. Yeah, I'm going to stop reading there. Of course, what they don't delay is the money that hospitals are used to sucking up while they keep telling you that they're nonprofit and have golf tournaments to raise money. So much for healthcare in the United States. Your turn, Mike.
A mysterious and troubling gender disparity in the way the coronavirus attacks its victims has prompted scientists in the Bay Area and around the world to look more closely at the biology of men and women and how their bodies react to disease. COVID-19, like many other diseases, wreaks more havoc on men than women, according to numerous studies dating to the first corona outbreak in Wuhan, China, when 3 out of 4 hospitalized patients were male. John, this is just so surprising to me. Obviously, it's got to do with biology, but I just wonder why more men than women are being impacted by COVID-19. Do you have any idea?
No, I don't. I think it's just something about the female body that's probably in some ways superior to the male body. It's probably part of the same reason that all over the world, females have greater longevity than males.
Also more women than men survive the Donner Party. Maybe they're stronger. It's true.
Only you would know that.
Well,
maybe you should tell our listeners what you're referring to, because you and I learned it in history, but I'm not sure anybody still does.
Well, I got to thank Ken Burns for that. Okay, his program on the Donner Party, which was very, very difficult to watch. But the fact is that more women than men survived the Donner Party. And
just tell our listeners what the Donner Party was.
It was the group of immigrants to California coming from the East that took some bad advice and took a different trail trying to get over the Sierras, and they got stuck around what is now called Donner Lake during a particularly horrible winter, and they ended up cannibalizing. It's a pretty dreadful story, but I got to think that women perhaps are just physiologically stronger than men.
Well, I don't know if it's a matter of stronger, but physiologically, women have a higher percentage of body fat than men, and that may help in the survival game. Part of the reason that they have a higher percentage of body fat, of course, is because when they get pregnant, their bodies become chemical factories, and that fat's very useful. But it also serves, when they're not pregnant, it also serves other purposes, I think, which probably is part of the reason for longer survival. I mean,
I got another. Yeah.
When you run a marathon, at the end of a certain point, if you keep running and you haven't trained enough or you're just not in enough shape, and sometimes even if you are, the body actually starts eating itself, because that's what the body has to do. And in that sense, women have an advantage there.
Hey, what you're talking about is what happened to that female marathon runner in '84. Remember?
No.
It was the '84 Olympics, and I think it was the first time, of course, because there wasn't any '80 Olympics. It was the first time, oddly enough, that women were allowed to run the marathon in the Olympic competition. And there was a female runner. I believe she was an American. At least she spoke. She didn't have an accent. I don't know. She could have been Canadian or whatever. But she got to the point where she entered the LA Coliseum, and she had, I think they said there were no more electrolytes, whatever that means. And of course, she wanted to finish the race. And of course, if anybody touches her, she's disqualified. So she essentially staggered around the track and finished the race, but obviously wasn't competitive. She was fine the next day. They just put her on some IVs, and she was able to talk about the whole experience.
That's what Gatorade is,
Yes, and you know how Gatorade was invented, correct?
I think I do. Yes, I do. Actually, it was originally a terrible tasting drink, and the company that had it couldn't sell it for anything, and so they sold it to whichever company ended up making it, because the people at Gatorade said, well, we can make it so it tastes okay. But originally, it was the University of Florida football team that had it as an electrolyte supplement. That's why it's called Gatorade, because they're the Florida Gators. Yeah.
The Florida Gators. So in September,
I believe they still get a royalty from the drink.
Well, good for them. In September and early October, I think they're in the SEC. Things can get a little hot down there in Florida. So they had themselves a competitive advantage for a while by drinking the Gatorade. Yeah, and of course, essentially, what it tasted like was sweat, because that's essentially what it was. Putting it back in.
Right. And then I forget which company bought it, and they said, oh, we can make it taste better. And they did.
But it tastes better, but it still has a weird taste to it, in my opinion.
I've drunk Gatorade. It's not an unpleasant drink. It's okay.
Mike, I'm back. Yes. Why don't you read the last story, and then I'll close the show.
Okay. Days after the state ordered churches across California to discontinue singing and chanting, citing concerns amid the worsening coronavirus pandemic that these activities increase the likelihood of spreading the contagious disease, Sunday services at some Sacramento area places of worship pressed on with unmasked singing anyway. The mandate issued by Governor Gavin Newsom and state health officials a week ago on July 1 seemed destined to be combated by churches, especially those that consider singing particularly essential to worship. And, guys, we've seen a story like this before, and I guess these folks are thinking that the Lord is going to prevent them from getting sick.
And thank you very much. And here's a friendly mute reminder. It's been an absolutely wonderful show all over the place as far as shows go. I want to thank the madman across the water, John Scalia, my chief of staff, Dr. Mike Zyma, as well as all the good people back at Work Comp Central that continue to, the workcompcentral.com that continue to support and approve this project, including but not limited to Ms. Kristen Chavez. And also thank you, A1 Law, 818-357-4120 for no strings attached, money back guarantee, $1 a day, A1 Law. My name's Steve Appell. Thanks for joining us. We will see you again tomorrow at noon for another edition of Work Comp Matters.